They called me a broke old fool and kicked me out of Easter dinner. What they didn't know was that I had just wired $40 million that morning. That was the moment their perfect life began to crumble, and I was the one holding the sledgehammer. If you're watching this, please like and subscribe to my channel. Tell me in the comments where you're listening to this story of justice from. I want to know how far the truth travels. I stood in the parking lot of a Dollar Tree on Easter Sunday morning, holding a plastic basket filled with cheap chocolate bunnies and toy trucks. The total came to $17.43. I paid with a worn $20 bill and stuffed the change into my coat pocket. The clerk smiled at me with pity. She probably thought I was buying last-minute gifts because I couldn't afford anything better. She was right about the last-minute part. She was dead wrong about the afford part. I loaded the basket into my 15-year-old Honda Civic. The passenger seat was duct-taped where the fabric had torn. The radio didn't work. The air conditioning had given up 3 summers ago, but the engine ran, and that was all I needed. I had been driving this car for a decade, ever since I sold Mitchell Logistics for $120 million. Nobody knew about the sale, except my lawyer and my accountant. To the world, to my daughter Amanda, to my son-in-law Derek, I was just Robert Mitchell, the retired truck driver who lived in a modest apartment and clipped coupons. I liked it that way. Invisibility gave me clarity. It showed me who people really were when they thought I had nothing to offer. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Amanda. My stomach tightened. She usually only texted when she needed something. The message read, "Dad, we're so sorry, but Derek's parents surprised us by flying in from Phoenix. They're very traditional and want a formal Easter with just immediate family. You understand, right? We'll do something next week. Love you." I read it twice. I sat in that parking lot, engine off, holding my phone. The cheap plastic eggs in the basket next to me suddenly felt heavier than stone. Immediate family. I was her father. I was her only parent. Her mother, my Sarah, had died 8 years ago from cancer. I had held Amanda through every minute of that nightmare. I had paid for the funeral that cost more than their yearly salary. And now, I wasn't immediate family. I didn't reply. I started the car. I didn't drive home. I drove to their house. I needed to drop off the gifts. I needed Sophie and Tyler to know their grandfather remembered them, even if their parents had forgotten him. I parked 3 houses down. Derek hated seeing my piece of junk car in his driveway. It clashed with his leased BMW and Amanda's leased Mercedes. Both leases I was secretly paying through a trust fund Amanda thought was a settlement from her mother's life insurance. I walked up the manicured lawn carrying the Dollar Tree basket. I could see through the dining room window. The curtains were open. The chandelier I had bought them for Christmas was glowing. I saw Derek's parents, the Stevens, sitting at the head of the table. I saw Amanda fussing over place settings. I saw Sophie and Tyler coloring at the kids' table. I was about to leave the basket on the porch when I heard Derek's voice boom from inside. The window was cracked open to let in the spring air. "Thank God we dodged that bullet," Derek said, his voice dripping with relief. "Can you imagine Robert showing up here with his Goodwill clothes and that bucket of bolts he drives? My parents would have had a heart attack." I froze. Mrs. Stevens laughed. It was a cruel, tinkling sound. "Amanda, honey, you did the right thing. I mean, we love that you care for your father. But there's a time and place. This is Easter. This is about elegance. That man smells like mothballs and desperation. I waited for Amanda to defend me. I waited for my daughter, the girl I raised alone after Sarah died, to say something. Anything. Instead, she giggled nervously. "I know, Mom Stevens." I felt so guilty. But Derek's right. Dad just doesn't fit in anymore. He's still living like it's 1985. And honestly, her voice dropped to a whisper. But I could still hear it. I think he's getting senile. He keeps talking about his investments, like he's some kind of Warren Buffett. It's embarrassing. Derek spoke again. We need to talk about that after dinner, babe. My dad knows an elder care attorney. We might need to look into getting conservatorship. You know, before he blows his entire Social Security check on QVC or something. Then we'd have to support him. Mr. Stevens cleared his throat. Son's right, Amanda. Strike while the iron's hot. Once you have legal control, you can liquidate that apartment. It's sitting on decent land value, probably worth $300,000. You two could use that for the down payment on the lake house you've been eyeing. My hands clenched around the plastic basket handle. It cracked. They thought I was senile. They were plotting to take legal control of my life. They wanted to sell my home and use the money for a vacation house. I looked through the window one more time. I saw Sophie holding up a crayon drawing. She was showing it to Amanda, but Amanda waved her away, too busy impressing the Stevens with her hostess skills. Tyler was sitting alone, pushing a toy car across the floor. Neither of my grandchildren looked happy. I set the basket down silently on the welcome mat. I turned around and walked back to my car. My hands were shaking, but not from age or weakness. They were shaking from a cold, crystalline rage I hadn't felt in 30 years. The last time I felt this was when a competitor tried to sabotage my company. I destroyed him. I took his contracts. I took his clients. I buried him so deep he had to move to another state. That Robert Mitchell, the ruthless CEO, had been sleeping for a decade. But Derek Stevens had just kicked the cage open. I drove straight to my lawyer's office. Sarah Chen worked Sundays for her high-net-worth clients. She was the only person who knew the full extent of my wealth. I had kept her on retainer for 10 years, paying her $200,000 annually just to be available. I called her from the parking lot. Sarah, it's Robert. I need you. Now. I'll be there in 15 minutes, she said without hesitation. I sat in her mahogany-paneled office. She poured me a scotch. I didn't drink. I laid out what I had heard. Every word. Every laugh. Every plan. Sarah listened. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Robert, I've been your attorney for a long time. I've never seen you angry. But right now, you look dangerous. I need you to do 3 things, I said. My voice was steady. First, terminate the trust fund that pays their car leases. Effective immediately. Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard. Done. The payment will bounce in 48 hours. Second, I continued. Foreclose on their mortgage. Sarah looked up, startled. You hold their mortgage? Through a shell company called Helping Hands Holdings, I said. I bought the note from their original lender 3 years ago when they were going to default. They think they got a miracle refinance. Pull the loan. I want a 30-day notice delivered tomorrow morning. Sarah's eyes widened, but she nodded. Consider it done. Third, I said, standing up and walking to the window. I want to make a very public donation. $40 million. To the Children's Hospital. I want a gala. I want the mayor. I want the hospital board. I want every socialite and every reporter in this city. I want it announced this week. Sarah stood up. Robert, that's going to put you on the front page. Your anonymity will be gone. Good, I said. Let it burn. I'm done hiding. The next morning, the plan went into motion. At 8 a.m., a process server knocked on Derek and Amanda's door. I wasn't there, but I had security footage from the doorbell camera I had installed for them last year as a gift. Derek answered in his bathrobe. The server handed him 2 envelopes. One was the 30-day foreclosure notice. The other was a cease and desist letter regarding any attempt to file for conservatorship, backed by my psychiatric evaluation from 3 different doctors confirming I was in perfect mental health. Derek's face went white. He ripped open the foreclosure notice. I could see his lips moving as he read. Then he started yelling. This is a mistake. We've never missed a payment. This is illegal. The server shrugged. Sir, the loan holder has the right to call the note due. You'll need to pay the full balance of $680,000 within 30 days or vacate the property. The door slammed. 20 minutes later, Derek called the leasing company about his BMW. The payment had been declined. They informed him the guarantor had withdrawn. He had 72 hours to provide a new down payment of $12,000 or return the vehicle. Amanda's Mercedes dealer called 10 minutes after that with the same message. By noon, I received a flurry of texts from Amanda. I sat in my apartment, drinking coffee, reading each one with cold satisfaction. Dad, there's been a huge mistake with our mortgage. Can you call me? Dad, please pick up. This is an emergency. Dad, I know you're mad about Easter, but this is serious. We need your help. I didn't respond. By 6 p.m., the local news broke the story. Local philanthropist Robert Mitchell announces $40 million donation to Children's Hospital. Gala to be held this Saturday. My phone exploded. Amanda called 17 times. Derek called 9. I let every single call go to voicemail. Finally, a text from Amanda. Dad, we just saw the news. You donated $40 million? You told me you were living on Social Security. You let us struggle while you hoarded money? How could you do this to your own daughter? I replied with 2 words. Immediate family. The gala was held at the grand ballroom of the Hilton. I wore a custom Tom Ford tuxedo that cost more than Derek made in 6 months. My silver hair was trimmed. I wore my Swiss watch that I hadn't taken out of the safe in years. I looked like what I was, a titan of industry who had taken a long vacation from relevance. The mayor shook my hand. The hospital CEO gave a speech about my generosity. A children's choir sang. There were ice sculptures and champagne towers and a 5-course meal prepared by a Michelin-starred chef. I stood on the stage for the ceremonial check presentation. The photographer snapped pictures. The check was the size of a door, with $40 million printed in bold numbers. The crowd applauded. Then, I heard the commotion at the entrance. Security was trying to stop someone. I nodded to them. Let them in. Derek and Amanda burst through the doors. They looked disheveled. Amanda was wearing a dress I recognized from 5 years ago. Derek's suit was wrinkled. They hadn't had time to prepare. They had come in desperation. The crowd went silent. The chandeliers cast harsh shadows. Everyone turned to watch. Dad! Amanda screamed, her voice echoing off the marble walls. She pushed through the crowd. People stepped back, creating a path of shame. Dad! What the hell is this? You've been lying to us for years. I stood at the podium. I didn't flinch. Amanda. Derek. What a surprise. Derek stormed up to the stage. Security moved to intercept, but I raised a hand. Let him speak. Derek's face was red. You selfish son of a bitch. You let us believe you were broke. You let us pay for your meals. You let us worry about you. And all this time, you were sitting on a fortune? The crowd murmured. I saw judgment in their eyes, but not directed at me. They were looking at Derek and Amanda, like something foul had crawled in from the street. I never asked you to pay for anything, I said calmly into the microphone. My voice filled the room. In fact, I don't recall you ever paying for my meals. I seem to remember always picking up the check. Amanda climbed onto the stage. You're being petty. This is about family. You're supposed to help us. We're drowning in debt. And you're throwing money at strangers. Strangers, I repeated. I looked at the children's choir. These children with cancer are strangers. But they never called me senile. They never plotted to steal my home. Amanda's face went pale. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone. I connected it to the AV system. Let me refresh your memory. The giant screens around the ballroom flickered to life. The audio from Easter dinner began to play. Derek's voice. Thank God we dodged that bullet. Can you imagine Robert showing up here? The crowd gasped. Mrs. Stevens's voice. That man smells like mothballs in desperation. Amanda's nervous giggle. Dad just doesn't fit in anymore. I think he's getting senile. Derek's voice. We might need to look into getting conservatorship before he blows his entire Social Security check. Mr. Stevens. Liquidate that apartment. Down payment on the lake house. The recording ended. The silence was deafening. Amanda was shaking. Dad, we were venting. We didn't mean. You meant every word, I said. My voice was steel. You wanted me erased. You wanted my home sold. You wanted me locked away so you could take what you thought was yours. I turned to the crowd. For 10 years, I've been funding their entire lifestyle. Their cars, their mortgage, their children's private school tuition. I did it quietly because I thought I was helping family, but I was enabling parasites. I pulled out a folder. Sarah had prepared it. This is a detailed accounting. $600,000 for the house, $80,000 for vehicles, $40,000 annually for the school, another $20,000 in emergency loans that were never repaid. In total, I have spent over $1 million keeping them afloat. The crowd was riveted. This was better than any show. And my reward? I continued. Mockery, conspiracy, plans to have me declared incompetent. Derek tried to speak. We were going to take care of you. By stealing my home? I interrupted. By selling it for a lake house? Security moved in. 2 police officers I had invited stepped forward. Mr. Stevens, one officer said. We need to talk to you about attempted elder fraud and conspiracy to commit financial abuse. Derek's face went from red to gray. You can't be serious. I'm very serious, I said. I've filed a formal complaint. The district attorney is very interested in elder abuse cases. Amanda grabbed my arm. Dad, please, the kids, think about Sophie and Tyler. I am thinking about them, I said, pulling my arm away. Amanda staggered back. You what? Your children have been living in a home where their parents are committing fraud, where their grandfather is mocked, where financial instability is constant. I have a file documenting times you left them alone while you went to the casino, times their school called me, not you, because they were sick, times I found Tyler eating cereal for dinner because you were too busy house hunting. Sarah stepped forward, handing papers to Amanda. Temporary custody has been granted as of this morning. The children are currently with a licensed care provider. You'll have supervised visitation pending the full hearing. Amanda collapsed to her knees. She was sobbing. Derek lunged at me. Security tackled him. He was screaming obscenities as they dragged him out. The officers followed with handcuffs. Amanda looked up at me, mascara running down her face. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said. But one day, maybe you'll thank me for stopping you before you destroyed yourself completely. She was escorted out. The doors closed. I turned back to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. Family drama has a way of finding you, no matter where you hide. But let me be clear about why I'm here tonight. It's not revenge. It's redirection. That $40 million isn't going to people who feel entitled to it. It's going to children who fight for every single day. That's where it belongs. The crowd erupted in applause. It wasn't polite charity gala applause. It was the sound of people who had just witnessed justice. 3 months later, I sat in my new house. Not a mansion, just a comfortable 4-bedroom in a good school district. Sophie was doing her homework at the kitchen table. Tyler was building a Lego set in the living room. The custody had been finalized. Amanda had been given a choice: rehab and parenting classes, or permanent loss. She chose rehab. I was proud of her for that. Derek chose to fight the charges, and lost. He was serving 18 months for attempted fraud. Sophie looked up from her math worksheet. Grandpa, can you help me with this? I walked over. I looked at the problem. I explained it in a way she understood. She smiled. Thanks. Grandpa, you're really smart. I'm just old, I said, ruffling her hair. You're not old, Tyler called from the living room. You're awesome. I felt my chest tighten. This was wealth, not the money in the bank, not the properties or the stocks. This, 2 kids who were safe, fed, loved, and learning that family meant showing up, not showing off. My phone buzzed. A text from Amanda. Dad, I finished week 8 of the program. I'm learning a lot. Thank you for not giving up on me. I was so lost. I'm sorry. I typed back. I never gave up on you. I gave up on the version of you that was drowning. The real you is still in there. Keep fighting. I put the phone down. I looked around at my modest, comfortable home. I thought about the 40 million I had given away. I thought about the million I had wasted, trying to prop up a lifestyle built on lies. And I realized I had more now than I ever had before. I had my grandchildren. I had my dignity. I had the truth. Derek and Amanda had wanted me silenced and sidelined. Instead, I had become louder and more present than ever, not because I was cruel, but because I finally understood that real love sometimes means burning down the structures people hide behind so they can see themselves clearly. I walked over to Tyler. I sat down next to him on the floor. "What are we building?" "A spaceship," he said, handing me a piece. "Wanna help?" I took the piece. I clicked it into place. "I'd love to." Outside, the sun was setting. Inside, we were building something new. Something honest. Something that would last. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. Tell me in the comments, would you have given them a second chance? Or did they get what they deserved? I want to know what you think. Because justice isn't just about punishment. It's about protection. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is stop enabling the lie and start living the truth.